Hi everyone, thanks for joining me. Today I'm going to show you how to layer the Cricut Infusible Ink transfer sheets and the Cricut Infusible Ink pens or markers. I think this is a really neat technique, and I think it adds a lot of dimension and a lot of wow factor to your Cricut designs. I have layered the Cricut 0.4 Infusible Ink marker with the Cricut Infusible Ink in rainbow and patterns. That's the color, that blue galactic color that's in the background that you see here. So without further ado, let's get started. I'm going to show you how I made this. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the Cricut Infusible Ink transfer sheet. You're going to choose Cricut Infusible Ink in your custom settings and go ahead and let that cut. It's going to use the fine point blade and it will cut it out. You can use your Cricut Explorer or your Cricut Maker. Either one, they work the same. Now I want to show you when you weed the Infusible Ink transfer sheets. It's a little bit different than you're used to. You're going to kind of roll it like this and crack it. It's called cracking. And then you can just weed it with your fingers. There's no need to use tools. And in fact, the tools can, scratch the ink and ruin your design. But if you just crack and roll it until you can kind of get your finger under there, it'll start to lift. And then you can just easily weed it with your fingers. So it is kind of curly, but you don't want to keep it on the mat. You could put it back on the mat after you crack it and, roll it a little bit. But you don't want to just try to weed it while it's flat. And now we're going to use the Infusible Ink markers. I changed my mind on this. I was going to use the thick marker, but I think for this particular design, the 0.4 markers will work a little bit better, and I'm going to use the blue one. And I'm just putting in a sheet of laser jet copy paper. It's just a copy paper you can buy by the ream. You can get it at Staples or Office Max, wherever you get your office supplies. And it's just basic copy paper. But there is a property of the laser paper versus regular copy paper that does give you a little bit of a brighter result in the end. So you can use regular copy paper, but for the best results, they recommend the laser copy paper. So that's totally up to you which one you want to use. I am using the Hammer Mill laser paper, and I'll try to remember to link that in the video description when we're done. So I'm going to fast forward through this while we're waiting for this to finish drying. So while we're waiting for the Cricut to finish drawing our design, I'm going to go ahead and prep my shirt. Now I am using a Cricut Infusible Ink blank t-shirt. This is a kids or youth size small, and it comes in packaging that looks just like this. The first thing you want to do in any application is be sure and lint roll. If you don't lint roll, what will happen is those little fibers that are left on the t-shirt that you can't really see, those are going to turn into blue squiggly lines, and you don't want that to happen. So make sure that you take the time to lint roll your shirt. In this, I literally just took this out of the package and I'm still lint rolling it, and there was still lint on the roller. So the next thing you're going to do is take a piece of white cardstock. It needs to be white. Don't use a colored cardstock, and place that inside the shirt. There's nothing fancy about this cardstock. It's just to keep any ink from possibly transferring through the shirt to the back of the shirt or onto your EasyPress mat. So then you're going to put your butcher paper down and just heat it for about 20 seconds or so. This is just going to remove any moisture from your shirt. Now that butcher paper comes with your Infusible Ink transfer sheets. If you buy a 4-pack of Infusible Ink transfer sheets, you'll get 4 sheets of butcher paper. You can reuse the butcher paper as long as there is no ink on it. Now you're going to remove the butcher paper, and our shirt is ready for the first application. So the first thing I'm going to do is put the Infusible Ink design down, this one. And you can see how dull that is. It's not nearly as bright coming out of the package or out of your Cricut until you apply heat to it, and then it's going to become very vibrant. Now this is from the Rainbow and Patterns pack of Infusible Ink. If you're interested in that, I'll have it linked below the video. So what I'm going to do is put the butcher paper down, and you want to make sure that that design is going to fit under the EasyPress that you have. I'm using the 9x9 EasyPress, and my design's about 8 inches, so I know that it's going to fit. You don't want to do multiple presses on the same shirt to cover the area. You also want to make sure you're staying out of these seams, that seam up here on the top, and the sides on the sleeves. You want to make sure you're not on any seams. You want to have a nice flat press And I am just putting a little bit of pressure just so that I can make sure everything is getting pressed very evenly. Now you can see the Cricut Maker over there still drawing away. There are tons of new drawing files in Cricut Design Space library, so you might want to check that out. They are adding tons and tons of them, and they're really cool with these Infusible Ink markers. Now this is the 0.4 pen that's drawing with, so that's going to draw more like a pen. And then they also have the 0.1s, which draw more like a marker. So I've removed the butcher paper, and now I can remove the transfer paper. And look how brilliantly beautiful that is. I absolutely love it. It looks very galactic to me, and it's going to be perfect with the Star Wars. Now you can see there's just a little bit of ink left on there, but hardly any at all, and you obviously can't reuse that. You're not going to get any design. You might get a slight little, places where there's a little bit of ink left on it if you try to reuse it, but you really don't want to reuse that. So let's wait for our design to finish, and I'll show you what we're going to do next. All right, our design is almost finished here, but while we're waiting, I wanted to show you, here are the different markers. See, there is a 0.4, that is like the pen, and a 1.0, and that is more like a marker tip. These are much thicker, and these are thinner. I'm using the 0.4 on the design that I'm doing right now. So if you have something that's really detailed, I would stick with the 0.4s because the 1.0s are a little bit thicker. One other thing I wanted to share with you is the heat transfer guide that Cricut has available for you. So you can go to the website and choose which EasyPress you're using. You can choose which material you're using. So we're looking, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see the new Infusible Ink markers and transfer sheets. So we're going to scroll all the way to the bottom, and here I'm choosing the Infusible Ink markers. And then we're going to choose the blank that we're using, and we're using a t-shirt. So I'm going to choose t-shirt, and then you're going to click apply. And here it's telling me I need to set the EasyPress to 385 for 40 seconds. Again, I'm using the EasyPress 2. If you're using the EasyPress 1 or the original, you're going to need to check your settings. It's going to go over the supplies, the preparation, the application, and the care. So it's a really neat reference guide here. It shows you the little stack or the sandwich that you're going to use to make sure that you have the very best results. So make sure, I have this bookmarked on my phone, and I have a video where I show you how to do that. And it's really, really convenient. So I've got my EasyPress set at 385 for 40 seconds. Now I'm going to close the pen. I recommend storing these point side down. And also, after you take these out of the package, it's easy to tell which is which. There's an F on the bottom of this one. That means it's a fine point. Your medium ones have an M. And it also tells you right here on the side of the barrel that this is the fine tip pen, just in case you're wondering. And again, I store mine point side down so that the ink goes down towards the point. Now I'm just removing this from the mat. Now I recommend pulling the mat away from the paper instead of pulling the paper off. That will help it not curl as much. And you can see the design right here. So again, this is in Design Space. So check out all of the new drawing features in Design Space, or the new drawing designs. They have added a ton to the library. All right, so I'm just trimming this down to size. Looks just like this. And you're going to put this face down. Now, one thing I didn't mention earlier, but it does tell you when you go through the setup that you need to be sure and mirror your design, especially if you have any wording. Some designs don't really matter if they're mirrored, but like any iron-on project, you need to make sure that you do mirror your design. Now, whenever you're using copy paper with the markers, you want to make sure that you're using the heat transfer tape. This is special tape put out by Cricut. This is their tape, and it will keep that paper from sliding around, which could cause some ghosting on your design. And you just want to tape it down. Now, this is special tape. This won't leave any gooey, gunky stuff on your shirt. Don't just try to use Scotch tape, because once you apply heat, you're going to melt it on your shirt, and you're not going to be happy with what happens next. So make sure that you tape it down really well. I think I'm going to put a couple more pieces of tape on this one just to make sure that it doesn't move at all. You don't want, if it moves, you will have ghosting on your final result, and you don't want that. So I'm going to put just a couple more pieces of tape, and I think that is nice and secure. I've got it taped all the way around the design. Now I'm going to add that butcher paper back on. There's no ink on it. I'm going to put the EasyPress down. Don't move the EasyPress whatsoever. 385 for 40 seconds, and I'm applying just a light amount of pressure. Nothing major. I'm not leaning into it. I just have my hand just lightly pressing down on it. Nothing uncomfortable. And I'm just doing that to make sure that it is getting a nice, even press. I am working on top of an EasyPress mat. Highly recommend that if you don't have one already. It is worth the investment. It makes a world of difference in your EasyPress projects, whether you're doing iron-on or Infusible ink. I really think the EasyPress mat is amazing, and it also protects your work surface. All right, we're going to move that butcher paper out of the way. And oops, I just stuck this on my mat. It's sticking, but I want to show you really quickly that this has ink on it. So now I can no longer use this butcher paper because that will transfer to another project. So I'm just going to throw that away. And now we can lift up the design. And ta-da! Look how cool this is. I absolutely am in love with how this looks, and I think Ace is going to love it too. You can't feel this whatsoever. You can't feel the markers. You can't feel the ink transfer sheet, the blue. And I think it's really, really cool. And this shirt has so much dimension with that pattern of the Infusible ink transfer sheet and the markers added on top. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial of the Infusible ink markers with the Infusible ink transfer sheets working together to create a really multi-dimensional design. I think it adds a big wow factor to your designs. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share. Don't forget to click that bell notification so that you're notified every time there is a new video. Also, tag me on social media if you try this out. I'd love to see what combinations you come up with. Till next time, see you guys. Bye-bye.